Sorry about that. I thought I had this stupid thing set up last time, but apparently it decided to not cooperate. But we're live now. Hello and welcome to Dog in a Tank live stream. I'm Victoria. I'm the creator of Dog in a Tank for anybody new. And, wait a minute here. I'm currently working on the cover of Phantom Eclipse Chapter 1. There we go. Now you can see that. I'm still in the middle of doing some inking on it. But that's the front cover. Here we go. So yeah. There we go. Darn it, stop trying to roll off. There we go. Boop. I'm kind of multitasking a little bit here, so I'm sorry this is taking longer than I would like. That I just spontaneously live stream. We don't believe in actually planning anything here. We just spontaneously live stream. So there. Boop. Oh, there we go. In general, I don't really like talking about politics. Although I feel like I've seen a lot about this argument about all art is, political, which I think is crap because it's not. Because it's like anything, it's a choice you make to make your art political. I prefer to basically be political, not political, but apolitical, because I feel like people are entitled to pick up a book or a movie or whatever it is and not feel like they're being beaten over the head by an agenda. And that's like the biggest thing in the past few years. And this has been covered by various YouTubers. And so that's one of the reasons why I haven't really pushed to really talk about much. There's a lot of people out there who've already made really good points on it. But one thing that I haven't really seen touched upon is why exactly do we hate what is considered woke? Part of it is the political agenda. This obsessive thing of injecting this specific political view, namely leftist, because that's a lot of this stuff is, whether it's Disney, whether it's Marvel. I mean, they're both trying to make sort of turnarounds at this point, but I feel like that there's a lot of damage that they have done to themselves by just going woke in the first place. But the biggest reason, aside from the political angle, is whenever you get down to it, woke is anti-creative. And perhaps there's someone out there that's covered this. I don't know. I mean, I've watched a lot of people's videos. Don't mind the birds. But I don't think I've really specifically seen anybody talk about this. And when you really get down to it, like I said, it is anti-creative, because what these people are doing is they're taking these long time established franchises, whether it's Tolkien, whether it's Marvel, i.e. Stan Lee and everybody that worked with him, whether it's George Lucas and all his stuff. They're taking these and they're injecting this very forced agenda into it. They're trying to make it fit what they think it should. And yeah, it's about destroying that. It's about creating this new fiction that, and is geared to indoctrinate the next generation. And that is a problem. And people shouldn't have to, we talk, you think about how people do need to watch what their kids consume, because not everything is okay. Kids are sneaky, they're going to do what they want, but it's still the parent's responsibility to be aware of it. And whenever you have this agenda and everything, a parent can't blindly assume that, I feel like I swayed back to that, but anyways, I apologize. I'm not using a script, so the idea of destroying these long time franchises and rewriting essentially fictional history. And the reason to rewrite fictional history is because arguably, in a way, it's almost easier than rewriting real history to a certain degree. I mean, there's a lot of theories about, like what in history is true. There's a lot of stuff about how like this or that has been changed, because facts are important. They're very important because it's information. And if you manipulate information, then you can manipulate whoever is receiving the information, because they're receiving something that they think is true, but they're actually getting a lie. And that's evil when you get right down to it. And fiction, well, some people might shrug it off and go, well, it's just entertainment. But think about how much entertainment you consume. I mean, it's very hard to find someone who doesn't consume some form of entertainment, and that's why they're going for it. Now, I think they made a really big mistake in the past few years by just coming on. So, wokeism is something that's been around for a lot longer than just, what we perceive as like its big, spike here. It's in a lot of other stuff, because when you get down to it, a lot of Hollywood is essentially woke. It's why, think about the amount of people that you hear about that are conservative. Like, that's not very many people versus all the other people who are clearly, for the most part, I think like most of Hollywood is like leftists. I mean, when you get down to it, there are good people in there that aren't, but still, the vast majority of it is leftist. And that's because the people who are conservative are either forced to essentially not voice their opinions out of fear of being attacked or blacklisted, or they're having to go like an alternate route, because when you get down to it, Hollywood shouldn't be considered the be all end all. And Hollywood, I think, they've really abused their power, as seen with all this woke stuff in the past few years. And it is coming back to bite them. I think we've seen that in the theaters, where people just don't go to a movie. But this isn't the end of wokeism. This is something that it's like an evil monster, like you think you've slayed it, and it's just like, it's over here recuperating, okay? It's dying down now. Things are going to lie down, but it's going to be one of those things that probably will eventually see it rear its ugly head. Maybe it'll die down for the most part, but it's one of those inevitable things that the people who have that agenda, I mean, that's one reason why I don't take Disney seriously about really de-wokeifying, basically, is because you haven't heard about how they're going through, they're cutting people who are the ones that basically made this big push to have this agenda, because that's, there'd probably be a large uproar. And that's one thing to really consider and look at if you want to take somebody seriously. I mean, actions speak louder than words. We're having words right now we're not having any legitimate actions. And in many ways, I think the people in the indie community, we need to continue to ride this wave and build off of it, because people deserve to have the option to just enjoy something. You know, none of this crap of all art is political, because that's an excuse to justify making it political. Like, I've seen some arguments supposedly that, like, The Hobbit is political, and or just Tolkien's work in general, and I just beg to differ, because, you know, first off, Tolkien wrote that book as a children's book. The Hobbit specifically was written as a children's book. And that's why you don't have a lot of violence in there. I mean, yeah, Bilbo fights the spiders, and there's the Battle of the Five Armies at the end, but you don't get really heavy, detailed stuff here where, you know, you get all this, you know, nightmare-inducing things, because Tolkien didn't want to subject children to what he went through in the wars. He wanted to create something for them to enjoy, something to take them on an adventure. It wasn't about being political. It was about taking the reader on an adventure. And that is the beauty of writing. It's why, as a creator myself, I hate wokeism, because it's not about taking your reader on an adventure. It's about using that platform, using that art form as a platform. You know, they claim to be creators, they claim to be professional, but whenever their priority is to reduce characters to basically really bad stereotypes to force their agenda and all this other stuff, then it's not an art form to them. It's a platform. And yeah, I'm Christian conservative. I think that's wrong. I think we have this amazing ability to create, and there are probably, you know, some of these woke people that, you know, if they didn't have that political leaning, they would probably be some really cool creators, but because they've made that their identity, they aren't. And that's really, it's frustrating and disappointing. But that's the choice that they've made. I'm good, Hell of a Lore. Thank you for dropping in. I've been better, I've been worse. It's been worse for the past month. I got sick, and now I'm finally sort of making a comeback, so to speak. But, you know, baby steps. I mean, in general, I haven't really previously wanted to talk about wokeism and political stuff, because there's already a lot on it. But I feel like I do need to clarify my stance on it, and that is, I want to create stories that are apolitical. You know, like you see Dog in a Tank comics on something it's apolitical. You can just pick up and read it and not worry about, like, what kind of agenda idiocy is going to be going on, because my focus is on creating a story. My focus is trying to make as good art as I can. I'm still learning in these areas. I can still get better, but that's what I want people to think and see whenever they see one of my books. Whether it's Phantom Eclipse that I'm currently trying to do this new art for, or it's one of the other stories I create, I want you to see it and be like, you know, give it a try. I'm still working on trying to get this cover art done. I was sick for like a month, which sucked, because I really wanted to, you know, jump in on this and get it done. Make sure I'm on the right layer here. And it just was frustrating to basically put this on the back burner so I could get better to. And yeah. So, what is Phantom Eclipse about? I've talked about some before. I probably should put the link for the Global Comics, because there's like 20 pages, I think, on Global Comics of Phantom Eclipse. Like, if you want to just get an idea about a little bit, then head over to Global Comics and let me zoom in. And, you know, find Phantom Eclipse and check it out. Let me shrink that. There we go. I need to tidy up those lines. And Phantom Eclipse is a story about Echo, a girl who gets pulled into this shady organization that she suspects is up to no good. And it's certainly up to no good. But so the main characters on this cover, the previous covers, one was Merrick, and that's because initially I had dropped this as a two-parter on Amazon. Thank you. Thank you, Hello Lore. And now I'm wanting to basically re-release this as a full chapter, because I hate the idea of making people pay for the two parts. If I can manage to at least combine this. I know later I'll probably be, dropping chapters in parts, because later on there are other chapters that get longer. I think chapter 5, and this is from my time of doing webtoons, is like 80 some pages. So I would actually, that's one that I plan on dropping that as just a whole chapter. I would like to go in and clean up some of the art. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I have previously put on webtoons, and I've since, as general reiteration there, I have pulled that off of webtoons. I would like to work through it and clean it up and, do any edits to the story before I officially, turn around and drop it on Amazon. But all that, it's going to be a while before I can do that. My goal is just to get the first chapter out, and then we'll go from there. I plan on working my way through the rest of the stuff I have in the chute, but I also that being Grieving Princess, Exodus of Solomon, Flowers of Solace. Technically that's available as well on Amazon, but it's just like the first 22 pages, and I'd like to pull that, and I'd like to add like at least another 20 pages to at least round it out to like a full 40 some pages. So I feel like that y'all are getting your bang for your buck, because that's why I really wanted to get away from Amazon, but that's my best option right now, which I'll work with it. It's what I've got, it's what I'll work with. So I believe in rolling with the punches. So I will roll with these punches and go from there. And part of me just wants to kind of put the first chapter of Phantom Eclipse out and then just wait and kind of see what the reception is on that, because part of me is actually a little bit scared to go ahead and just drop like everything I can at once. But you don't know if you don't try. I'm still bummed because I really want to do like a full magazine, but I have other priorities, and right now the goal is just to get stuff out and then go from there. Draven has too many scales. I remember whenever I first did Draven, and I just used the line tool and did spikies. Huh. I might have to add Massiveverse to my list then. I'm already behind on the Rippaverse though. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff to read. I mean, I'd like to check out Fiendish at some point. At least buy the first book and check it out. There's a lot of stuff that Rippaverse is putting out, and I'm just blown away because it's like they keep putting out stuff, and it's like I'm already behind. Slow down. I'm already behind. It's like that audio where it's like the character is like, I have little legs. That's the feeling here. I am very much behind. It sucks. But I do look forward to eventually getting caught up on everything. But yeah. I used to just take the line tool and just do like these spiky scales. Now that I look back, it looked horrible. Now I'm doing these round scales. They take a little bit longer, but it looks better. This is actually faster than using the line tool. I can just freehand it because I've done it a lot. Oh boy. Yoink. Ditto on that. I'm really interested in a lot of the stuff that they're putting out, and it's just, I think it just really shows that there's a market out there. I mean, the scary part is getting it out and wondering what people's reaction is, but, you know, if Rippaverse can cut it, I mean, I'm no Rippaverse, but maybe there's room for me at the table. I just have to try and get out there and then pray and hope it goes well. But yeah. There we go. Tidying that up because apparently I made a mess. But yeah, I'd like to finish inking this. I'm planning on possibly doing something else to the cover before I get it back out, because I mean I already have to pull off the first chapter 2-parter thing and then upload this, and then I get to have the fun of making sure that KDP takes it, because KDP can be a little difficult sometimes. For the most part, I haven't had problems so much with the PDFs. Just for the prints, the biggest problem has been like, just other stuff. What have you been enjoying on your downtime? That's, I've been, let's see. Yes. I've been mostly just, I fell out of my creative, rhythm, and so I've been mostly just trying to write stuff that I'm not thinking about selling, just writing stuff for the sake of writing. I haven't really watched, um, hmm. I did watch the Spy Family movie recently. That was a fun watch. I think it could have been better in some ways, but I still enjoyed it. I think that uh, I also recently read the latest Spy Family volume. I'm trying to avoid spoilers because I'm basically just reading the volumes as they drop instead of keeping up with it online because I don't know, it's sometimes it's just nice to walk into a store or just hold a book instead of always read everything on the phone. I mean, I know that's the convenience in this digital age, but it's it can get boring. I like having stuff to look forward to, and that's the fun of waiting in between the volumes to just to get them and read them. So I'm staying very far away from spoilers on the Spy Family front. I'd like to there I have several things I'd like to eventually check out anime wise, but I haven't really pushed because I already have some stuff I need to finish, so I don't really want to get more. Back out. Now is the time to start questioning myself. And boop, boop. I'm actually taking my sweet time this time because last night I did this arm. The scales are a little bit tighter, but I don't know. I don't really want to have to redo that arm. So I might. I don't know. Now this is where things get tricky because. Yeah. Huh. I need to adjust this to get a better angle. Turn. There we go. So, yeah. No, I wanted to get this done a while back, and it's like between being sick and then being in that weird artistic funk, I had to really struggle to just get this drawn. So I'm I just hope I don't look at later and then be like I hate it. That's the worst thing is when you draw something you're like, "Oh, this looks good." And then you look at it later and it's like, "This is garbage." I don't know. We'll live. I'm just focusing on trying to get it to look as best as I can. I'm mostly done with the inking. Let me zoom out. Yeah. I need to do this character up here in this corner and figure out what it is I want to put in this pane of glass. I sort of have like I have these key things. It's sort of like little Easter eggs, um, like you'll see it now, and you won't understand like what that thing means, but then later as the story progresses, you'll get to understand why I put those things in those specific panels. I think. Because somewhere in here the arm turns. And there we go. Yeah. My problem is I have a lot of stuff I want to write, but I also need to sit down and use my handy dandy. Hello. Don't mind my feathered roommate. I think I tend to get a little stuck in my head, and so then I don't want to write because I want to sit down. I want to write the what I'm thinking about out at least as a loose synopsis, and then write it. And then I get behind because I want to do that, but I'm just to the point of I think I need to just finish what I'm working on the computer and then switch over and then just focus on things individually because I've learned that previously writing and trying to draw simultaneously can be a little too much to handle. I learned that the hard way from back whenever I used to basically make the first chapter of Phantom Eclipse up as I went. It was more like the first 2 chapters I made up as I went. And that's why I did a rewrite on chapter 1 because I wanted to keep like key parts of the story, but I wanted to basically refine it because it just felt very put together haphazardly. And one thing that I thought about that went into redoing the first chapter was to kind of make it more of a solid intro to the story instead of just flying by the seat of my pants. And the same can be said about the second chapter, very much just made up as I went along. And I think in a way that's good. I think if you're a new writer, it's good. Or new comic creator, it's good to kind of like have a phase where you get that out of your system. But I also feel like it's mentally exhausting, and that's what can often lead to burnout. And burnout is nothing fun to deal with. So that's why I'm to the point where I like having the time to figure out the story by itself and then worry about the art separately. In chapter 2, I felt initially was kind of a wasted chapter, and to avoid getting to like spoiler territory here, because of the way the story went, I always felt like I could have done a little bit more with it, and I could have fleshed things out better than I did originally. And that was one of the biggest reasons that went into wanting to rewrite it. And my problem is that I sort of want to rewrite other parts of Phantom Eclipse, and I'm to the point of I just want to stick to my initial idea, and then maybe one day I could maybe, I don't know, maybe not like a reboot or something, but maybe take the ideas I had and just do like a different story with it, where I have that freedom to do stuff, but without being tied to like whatever potential legacy Phantom Eclipse might have, if it ever takes off. I mean, they were just key parts of the bones, and Phantom Eclipse is really kind of like Well, you hear like people joke about how like the first kid is kind of like the experimental kid. You know, you're learning what how to raise the kid, like what to do or not do, and that's very much Phantom Eclipse in a nutshell. I did a lot of writing, experimentation with it. There are things that I thought long and hard about doing, and then wound up not doing because either it got written out of the story altogether, or I just felt like it didn't really work. I'm debating right now if I want to kind of, I feel like that's spoiler territory. Hail the lore. My main issues, I don't know which character I want to jumpstart the universe with. I think that's. I think whenever you're kind of stuck in that kind of rut, I'd say just look over your story and think about like the kind of story like you want to be. Like look at how other people have done stuff, and like if there's like a specific feel or thing you want to go for, and use that to help determine like where you want to go. I'm trying to think of, well, like the Inheritance series with Aragon. You know, you have a young boy going on an adventure, sort of, and he's learning to become a dragon rider. So, do you want to do like that angle where it's a younger character who's having to, darn it, you know, learn to navigate like this whole part of the world that is he's been kind of dropped into? Do you want to have like maybe kind of a older character who's they've been through some stuff, and so they're a little less fresh faced and green, so they know how to handle things. Like think about it from like that angle, and think about like what you've seen in other stories. I mean, that's one thing about, I think Isom is a good example of kind of a character. He's already been a superhero, and he's kind of going back into being a hero to save the family friend. So, do you want to go like that direction? Do you want to have maybe somebody who's, I want to say sort of in the middle, like they've had some experience, but they're still kind of coming to navigate things? I'm trying to think of a good example for that. I feel like I'm coming up a little short on a good example for that, but you know, it's all about figuring out like what sort of character it is that you want to, you know, go with. I mean, I know there's that thing of it's a rabbit hole, because once you pick a character, or you could just do like a group of characters, just kind of like a team of characters, maybe not quite like the X-Men or something, but like a group of characters that are going together to start the story. And that could work to your advantage of you could tell all these different character stories, and that way you wouldn't have to necessarily so much as choose. You would just have to work through the characters and make sure everybody gets like equal treatment. So that's always a good question to whenever it comes to that kind of debacle in the story. I'm gonna put happy little scales. I think I remember back whenever I started like Phantom Eclipse, I already had like the characters are what I started with, and that's why I wound up just sort of freewheeling it a little bit. Was that I was just sort of dragging the characters with me on the story a little bit. Although the characters that I always found easiest to write have been Draven and Serena. Draven's the one I'm working on right now with the dragon scales here. And Serena is over here in the corner. And I think that's because I kind of came in with the thought of I wanted Draven as like a rival character to Echo some. And I think that's changed a little bit. I don't want to give too much away, but it has changed some. And Serena is she's older than Echo because she's 20 and Echo is 18, but she's also the kind of person that she's kind of almost has her own kind of naivety because of her own personality. It's kind of thing that she'd probably be someone who, she's kind of person that's probably easy to approach and easy to talk to, but trying to think of good ways. You know, she has her own baggage, I think. There we go. I think I'll go with that. I mean, all the characters have their own baggage, because one thing I wanted was to clearly set each character aside with their own backstory. I found Echo to be the hardest to write because the other two have very tragic backstories, and Echo kind of she came from a I don't really find this to be too spoilery. She came from, a good family. She sort of grew up alongside Merrick, who they adopted. I've been doing a lot of reading for some aspiring writers recently. Some rad stories are coming soon. That's cool. I think that's what's sort of fun about watching like the indie comic boom, which I think we can sort of call it that, is that you have kind of Rippaverse and Iconic at the front, and then you have all these other people with their own stuff coming in, and it's just sort of fun to, see this stuff happening. And I'm hoping to be a part of it. If I can finish putting scales on her arm. I'm about done though. But yeah. And squeeze it over here. There we go. we're just about into the home stretch here. Yeah, that's in a way that's kind of like the saddest part right there. And the indie comic space is at this weird spot in the road between dumpster fire and a great community. LOL. It all depends on who you decide to follow. Yeah, I mean, in a way, it kind of sucks because I feel like if you're someone new to the space and you don't know anything, then you follow anybody and everybody just because you're trying to get your name in the hat, so to speak, to get noticed. But it's really that thing of you don't really want to do that because you're better off kind of taking it slow and watching who's doing what, because that's what I did with Rippaverse when I first heard about it, because I'm to the point that I really don't want to spend money on comics from someone that I might come to dislike, or doing things they shouldn't be. And it sucks because it's a fellow indie person, like, who doesn't want to follow them until you realize certain things like that, and you're just better off, take the time, do a little bit of research. I mean, I wish it wasn't like that, because there are a lot of good people on there that I've come across. Well, I've been on my current Twitter and my old Twitter, and it just, I wish things were better. Oop. Let me turn off. Let me find the right layer here. That's echo. That's that. There we go. Some comic book brands as well. Oh, cool. Just slip in here and there we go. I do think that arm is a little bit more relaxed, and this arm is a little bit more forward, so I just want to adjust perhaps the angle. There we go. Blink. And now to tidy up this mess. Blink. And there we go. And there we go. Tidy that up. Bring that down. Her sleeves here are sort of meant to be designed to look like flames, which is why they kind of I always like drawing them to where they look like they're moving to kind of capture that sort of motion that they are flames of a sort, since her ability is acid fire. There we go. Yeah, another reason why I hate art block is like the stuff that's already difficult, it just becomes harder, like nearly tenfold. But yeah, I like to work through here. And kind of tidy all this up. I don't mind if things look a little asymmetrical, because I feel like that adds to like the organic feel, but I like at least having it look tidy and not just messy. There we go. I forgot her eyebrows. That's not to say I don't have characters that don't have eyebrows, but Draven most assuredly has eyebrows. I need to pop over, and I think I might already follow them. I'll have to look it up. I follow a lot. I'm basically self-taught, and YouTube is where I got a lot, where I learned like a lot of the stuff. I know, so it is the art school. It is the poor man's art school, but that's not to say that it isn't a good one, because someone somewhere has done a video on just about everything, and I'm very much appreciative of that, because there's a lot of stuff to learn. I also like having a lot of art books, because if by some miracle or whatever you want to call it, that somebody hasn't touched a subject, and there's somebody else then it's hopefully covered in a book. I sort of liked how the hair went up like that, but it just sort of also makes her Now I'm wondering whenever I turned off the microphone. There we go. Crap. Did I say my reply to your Dawn of the Walker thing? I think I did before I turned off the microphone. I'm turning it off from time to time to deal with some of the background noise I'm having from time to time here. If I didn't already touch on it, feel free to go ahead and tell me. I'll give my answer again, because I'm now confused whether or not I did or not. I think I had a different hand position, but I'm about ready to just deal with it. Just work with what I have and then go from there. There we go. I don't like how that palm looks. I think it's funny that hands are like an artist love-hate relationship. It's like you either love them as an artist or you absolutely hate them. And I'm over here. I have, for the most part, I like drawing hands. I mean, a little fun fact is I used to actually suck at like drawing ears. Ears probably still aren't like one of my strongest points, but I got forced to draw them because Echo had a pixie cut, and I kind of had to learn to draw them anyways. So yes, a helpful tip for any, upcoming, any artists out there. You struggle with ears, no problem. Just make a character who has short hair. Same thing with hands. Just go draw a Shigaraki from My Hero Academia a few dozen times, and you'll either get really good or you'll just hate hands for forever. Yeah, there we go. I think I'm getting about to the point where I'll be happy enough with it to just go ahead and ink. I want to scale out that pinky some more because the angle is cutting it really short. There we go. I think there's one thing I found really interesting whenever I first saw like Shigaraki. And I think I first saw him on actually like somebody's speed draw, and I couldn't help but sit there and feel like the artist, the mangaka who created him, was like, I'm going to take this thing that is the love hate item of most artists, and I'm going to make this character who's going to make me draw like hands over and over and over again. I mean, it's also kind of horrifying because it comes into like, I guess, that body horror type thing with him wearing like the hands on his face and stuff for most of the story, since I think later on he eventually did. I'm not caught up on My Hero Academia. It's kind of one of those that I've caught parts of it. I know some of the drama around it, but I just never really got into it. I think one of my biggest complaints is that it sort of felt like any other shonen series, just superheroes. And there's nothing wrong with that if you like that sort of thing, but you can only kind of see like the same kind of formula over and over again until you get bored. I mean, I've read part of the manga and the art is really good. I think I saw some really good art and some panels I really liked, but I just never really warmed up to it. You have to decide which part I want to start. Let's just knock out the hand. Let's just ink the hand and then move on. We move on to the bicep. The bicep is the easy part. It's just a straight line. There we go. We're just making happy little hands here, or a happy little hand. Now I'm going to tuck in. Here, I just adjusted this. Now I'm going to kind of... There we go. It's always the pinky that gets me, I think. I think it's because it throws me a little bit. It's that thing of the pinky is shorter than the rest of the digits. But it's like depending... I still don't like it. Not the best finger I've ever done. Probably not the worst either, but... And pick the right tool. And get all this all nicely tidy up. I kind of like the way that is, but I want to kind of shave it back. The hard part is done. As Clip Studio decides to save. My biggest complaint is it always seems to get me whenever I'm in a forward motion. I want to draw or ink, and I don't want to have to wait for it to save. I will say this, Clip Studio has gotten a lot better from back whenever I first started, because I love the save feature it has, because years ago, whenever I first started, I had to completely redo one page, which can be considered either a blessing or a curse. And I was bummed because I really didn't want to have to redo it, although I feel like in a way the second run was actually probably better than the first one. So it's a thing if it sucked, but I also probably got so much needed experience. There we go. And I can start shutting off a lot of the sketch things here, except for that one, since I haven't gotten around to inking it just yet. I'm still mulling over exactly what I want to do with that. Wink. I do want to put this on its own layer. But I also need to go in and quickly ink in these bits of glass here. And just figure out where everything needs to go. I'm basically done with the characters, barring like going back in and making maybe some very small adjustments. Although I really don't want to, because I want to get on with wrapping up the ink here. If I can find, there we go. That's the right layer. So we're going to come in here and get rid of that line because it's going through her hand. I think I might go in eventually. So here we go. And I'm probably gonna have to turn that off so I can see better. I mean, I already have, let me back out here, my things here with my brand and my, or whatever it's called, on the thing, because I wanted to set this up so that nothing really important was being obscured by these key things. So overall, this has been pretty productive. I've gotten two arms done, which is good. So I want to finish getting this top part here, get that done, so then I can ink this in and adjust it. Although I think I might want to just go ahead and adjust it some before I started doing, whenever I first did one, like the first chapter cover, it was this was bursting out through the mirror, so to speak, and I'm keeping it for this chapter because afterwards I'll be doing different covers. I don't plan on really using this motif such as it is for like the rest of, like, maybe some, but not just all the time. You don't want to use it where it has like the most impact, because in a way I feel like I've kind of overused it as it is. So yeah, come up here and find this bit. There we go. I don't mind it being like a little bit thicker there, because you sort of think about how like glass cracks. Like, you have a lot of leeway. If the line is a little wobbly, you think about how glass cracks and it's either just straight or it is kind of wobbly like that. It depends on, I think, how it's broken and where. Yes, we have Draven breaking up the top part here. I sort of hate the idea of like cutting off that part. It's not too bad. Yeah, I want that to hug that, so Here we go. I have a lot of this line art on different layers, which is sort of a love-hate thing for me, because it will make certain things easier. I need to tidy that up, because otherwise when I start coloring, that's going to go make the color go everywhere, and then I'm not going to be happy. Because one of the things that drive me nuts is whenever I didn't connect, like, that one line, and I get to play Where's Waldo, of where is the color leaking from. It's usually not too bad or too hard to find, but it's still frustrating because it slows me down. And while I'm at it, just go ahead and kind of eyeball the rest of it. Because hair is usually a hot spot for that sort of stuff to happen. We're going to just tidy that up a little bit. Yoink. Yeah, I'm looking at that. That looks uneven. Where are you, line tool? Should have been polyline. Okay. That's just there for me to kind of scoot this up a little bit. There we go. I've already made some adjustments. I do some adjusting whenever I'm, there we go, inking, because if it's something I can do that with while I'm inking, I like doing it, because it's a pain to have to go in and redraw. There we go. So there we go. And come over here, and I think I was initially intending to do the glass behind Draven like a different layer, but we'll, you know what, we'll leave it as I do that in the wrong layer. Tidy that up. And actually what we can do here is kind of, there we go. That looks messy, so let's, now is the time. I like having some extra little lines in the hair because that's detail. There's a difference between detail and, there we go, just looking sloppy. I've sort of devolved into just comic talk such as it is, but and this will probably wind up with its own and this is where the handy dandy thank you for popping in, and I hope to see you next time. I'm actually sort of thinking about wrapping up the stream as it is, so hopefully see you next time. Anyway, thank you for tuning in for anyone that did, and I hope to see you all next time in, well, Dog in a Tank out.